Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the Barnabas Vampire Van, and it was a 125 scale MPC kit, number 763, that was reissued a few years back, and originally in 1969. Now, the Vampire Van never really appeared in the show, but is a pretty popular model nonetheless. You can still find these models online. They're vintage kits, but they're still available at a pretty reasonable price. Now, the inspiration for the vampires were popularized, by the Stoker novel. But if you're a fan of the Twilight series, then that probably took its inspiration from Dark Shadows, where Barnabas Collins was the main vampire character. And it was a pretty popular show in the late 60s and early 70s. Now, this thing was the model of a hot rod hearse, originally issued, like I said, in '69, and the base kit started life as a 32 Chevy panel van, but was, like I said, never really in the show. It just was a cool MPC takeoff, and they did quite a few of these. Now, it's a skill level 3 for advanced builders. It has over 160 parts molded in white, chrome, and clear, and includes some soft rubber tires. Now, it's got a simplified motor, but it's fairly detailed molding, and many of the suspension parts are really nice quality rod parts. In fact, this whole kit has seen its way into a lot of kit bashing for other models. And the tires are pad printed. They look really nice. The figure's a little flat, but he's still, he should be. Anyway, when you're done, it'll be about 6.5 inches long, 3 inches wide, and 3 inches high. Okay, so construction starts with the motor, and assemble the block halves and paint those red with an aluminum transmission. And I painted the headers a steel color, the intake's aluminum, and the starter is black. Now attach the oil pan, starter, intake, and valve covers to the block, and then assemble the blower with the front, rear, and both halves of the breather there, and install that onto the intake. Then add the belt cover into place. I wanted to add a little detail to the motor, so I made a homemade wired distributor, and I'm going to use that to wire the motor. I used a Chevy wiring diagram for that, and you drill out the hole for the distributor shaft where it goes, and then install it with some super glue, and then drill out the locations on the heads where the spark plugs would go, and then match the wires up from the diagram, and then cut them to fit. Slide the wire into each hole, and then super glue all the wires into place. You can also add some boots to that if you want even more detail, and then add the coil and center wire and cut it to fit there, sitting on the front of the motor. Install the headers in place on each side, and then between the pipes there will be 2 spark plug wires in each section. Now we can work on the wheel assemblies, and the tires are some soft rubber slicks in the rear. Those are nice Racemaster pad printed tires, and some treaded smaller tires for the front. So to give them more of a road used look, just press and roll the tread on a flat sheet of fine sandpaper, like about a 220 grit, and then paint the 4 rim backs aluminum color. For the rear tires, you can assemble the front and back rims and then insert them into the tire with the printing to the outside. On the front, insert the front rim and the back rim into the tires, and they're not directional, and the printing is on both sides, so wherever you install those, it's okay. They'll be in the correct orientation. The front suspension's a little finicky here, and I suggest you use some of the super glue for construction, and we're going to install that prior to painting it. Go ahead and attach the leaf springs to the frame, and on the axle attach the spindles by only gluing the outer face edges, as they will be steerable when done. Now add the brake drums and add the tie rod, but don't glue it in place. Then add the steering rod without glue and snap the steering link onto the rod. Now get these parts out of the kit, and prior to painting, we'll add the rear suspension into place. Go ahead and assemble the two halves of the axles together and attach the brake drums, and then glue that unit to the frame in its locating pins. Get out the engine mount and the steering pin there, and then assemble that to the frame and paint the whole unit flat black. Detail the wheel pins you see on the left there with some aluminum, and then install the front tires onto the front brake drums. And note they'll be a little loose to allow them to roll, but just glue the pin on the end. Likewise on the rear, we're going to paint the wheel pins aluminum, and then install the rear tires onto the rear brake drums. And they'll also be a little bit loose, but that allows them to roll, and they kind of self-center when you set the model down. Only glue the pin on the end. Now stage the motor and assemble the two halves of the gas tank together and attach that to the rear panel. Just as a reminder, you see the gas tank installed here. Always remove the chrome plating or even paint before you try to glue the pieces together. Now we're going to attach the motor, and simultaneously you're going to place the drive shaft into the transmission and glue the motor to the mounts and into the rear differential where the drive shaft ends. Now you can go ahead and install the exhaust pipes into place there on the motor. So you can see that things are shaping up. We now have a rolling chassis. Make sure that the wheels all touch the flat surface there, and we can build the rest of our vehicle on this. Okay, now we can grab these parts and start the interior next. The steering column and the pedals are flat black, and the wheel is black with some silver spokes or aluminum, and then the seats are red. The floor on the underside is flat black, and on the top side it's red. I decided to glue a little carpet flocking to the floor bottom there, and we're going to use a little white glue, and I'm going to use some red carpet flocking. So you just paint the bottom deck there with the glue, the white glue, nice thick coat, and then you sprinkle on some flocking, tamp it down a little bit, and then shake off the excess after it dries. Now you can install the pedals, the shifter, and the column to the floor, and then add the wheel to the column there and install the seats into place. Now we'll start working on the body, and the mold is an old design, so there's going to be some parting lines and a few sprue attachment points that you'll need to address before you paint. And we can put some of the pieces like the visor, the firewall, and the side roof details on before we paint the unit. So go ahead and do that, clean it all up, and get it ready for primer. A little dry fit here, I noticed that the side walls of the interior panel were different size. One's a little shorter than the other. To remedy the situation, I took the two pieces and glued them together there at the split in the back so that the tops were even. And then I sanded the bottom on a flat piece of sandpaper to get them all both to the same height. I then filled in that chasm with a little putty and then finished that off smooth so that it looked like an interior tub that wrapped around as it properly should. With all of the parts cleaned up, now you can give them a good coat of primer on the inside and out, and then look it over to make sure that you didn't miss any blemishes, and give it a light sand so as not to lose the details. I'll be using a black metallic for the main body and these pieces as you see here, and the other parts will be a brown color. So the black parts here are the body, the hood, the front clip, and the dashboard. So then after that was dried, I taped the body off with a good automotive tape and to get a clean line, and I covered the remainder of the parts that will stay black. Now I painted the second color on all the parts that are brown, and those that are brown are the body trim, the rear doors, and the door hinge plate. So now we'll be using these pieces, and the dash has a center panel that can be installed now, and then install the windshield on the inside of the body with some white glue or clear cement, and then add the dash underneath the windshield. Now do some test fitting, and we're going to slide the interior there into the body, and then glue it in with some good strong glue. I suggest some epoxy or super glue at the contact points. Remember to remove any paint so that you get a good bond. And now we can install the body onto the chassis, and also install the front clip after that. And note that the front clip doesn't really line up quite right. The best just to eyeball it and make sure it's symmetric. And now you see the side glass here. We can add that to both sides with the clear glue or some white glue and get those into place. So gather up the body accessory pieces here and the radiator, and we're going to install those next. Now paint the radiator flat black. Once it's dry, put that into the engine bay, and there's no hoses really to connect it to the motor, so you could add some solder motor type of hoses if you wanted to embellish that. Now attach the clear globes to the lanterns with some white glue, and then super glue those to the body, and also the door handles in place. Remember, remove any kind of plating, and paint the inner area of the step flat black and install that on the body. Now the lanterns and the step don't have real positive attachment points, so just to make sure they're symmetrical, and use the box art to locate those on both sides. Now the back end pieces are rather ornate, but they are assembled next, and so gather these up. Then install the glass in the doors and add a handle to each, and then slide the door into the top hinge and super glue the bottom hinge into place for the body, allowing the doors to freely open. And assemble the tail lamps and paint the lens top stoplight red, and then install the grab bars there. Paint the recessed area flat black and install the step. So locate these pieces from the kit. As you can see, the exhaust pipes and the radius rods there, and the front fenders and the radius rods are next. So install the radius rods from each axle to the frame, and then install the 4 exhaust pipes to the fenders and add a grab handle to each side. Now we'll use these pieces to finish up the front and assemble the headlight halves with the handles, and use some clear glue or Elmer's on the lenses to install those, and then put the headlight nacelles onto each fender and assemble the spotlights and lenses and install them on the roof corners, and then add the grab bars to the roof. Now you can put the hood into place, but don't glue it there. You can remove that for display. And at this point the car is actually completed, but there's an optional trailer if you want to build that as well. Okay, there's no doubt about it. This is the craziest part of the kit. We're going to build the trailer, which is a casket and a Barnabas figure inside. And as obscure as it is, it's kind of got a mesmerizing quality to it. Now paint the coffin brown with a red interior and a silver hinge, and the trailer frame is black. The tires are flat black, and there's bumpers that are made to resemble feet. Okay, so assemble those and paint them. And the shoes are black, and the pants are flat brown, and the body parts are light flesh with kind of a red mouth, black eyes, and gray hair. Now the shirt is off-white and has a black tie, and place the figure into the coffin where it rests. You won't have too many pieces left, believe it or not, even with all those parts. And I didn't use the chrome hub pins because they'd already glued the plain plastic ones into position. Oh, there you have it. Your model is complete. And let's face it, for a cool factor from the outside, this thing is outstanding. You got to give it at least a 9. For fitment, the model itself is probably going to get rated like about a 6. There are many pieces that don't fit well, and there's some not very many good positive location points for some of the parts. But if you can bear with it, do a little extra work, you're going to get yourself a real head turner if you put one of these out. And if I were you, I'd find one and put it on my shelf. Well, we hope you like this premium step-by-step model kit review. And so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the lower right hand of each video. And you could also find us on Facebook and at our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks!